Hello, everybody. So I mentioned this on Twitter, but it bears repeating. I had a realization today. I realized that our boy VOLDI is basically the Chuck Bass of anime. Don't even at me. You know it's true. But with that information tucked very neatly into your mind palace, we're going to go ahead and talk about episode 3 of MISFIT of Demon Academy, Sasha's True Intentions. But before we get into that, I do want to remind you, if you have not hit that subscribe button yet, please, for crying out loud, do the thing. Hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. This one is an interesting one. I'm mostly pretty happy with the way things turned out. I mean, I'm not necessarily over the moon about the fact that Sasha breaks bad here, but I'm also not totally distraught by it. I think it makes sense given her character and what we knew about her, and besides, her turn was a little bit easy, wasn't it? So it's something that in hindsight I should have seen coming. The only issue I have with the episode is that it felt almost like it just sort of happened. The turn just sort of happens out of the blue because they keep leading you to assume that things are the way that they seem, and then so by the end of the episode you're in this sort of cozy little neat tucked away type of mode where by the time the flip does happen, it's almost jarring because it happens very quickly and there's not a whole lot of bombast about it. Sasha just turns bad again, and that's that. So it's a little bit underwhelming, but to really dig into why that is, we got to go through the episode as usual, scene by scene, beat by beat. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start with scene 1, which is now very sad in hindsight. We see the scene from last week where Sasha asks Misha if she likes VOLDI. And of course, Misha says that she does. And now we see the rest of that conversation where Sasha claims to not like VOLDI herself because Misha's like, wait, do you like VOLDI? She's like, what? No, of course not. That would be ridiculous. That'd be absolute mad laddery. That's crazy talk. That's crazy town banana pants. No, never. She's lying. She's super lying. But that said, so she does sort of claim to not like VOLDI, but she points out that he is the only one who can look into her eyes outside of Misha. And this is legitimately kind of a big deal because they are the only two people in her whole life who have been able to look at her in the eyes and not be scared or run away or anything like that. And that obviously does sort of strike Sasha as in something to be worthy of attention, right? Something to note. But at the same time, given her upbringing and the fact that every shot with Sasha in last week's episode and in the ED is laced with purple, which I have established is the color of royalty, meaning that Sasha has this lingering self-doubt. Not even self-doubt, this lingering... It's not even doubt, it's arrogance, right? She feels like she is deserving of all the things that are given to her because she comes from the Necron family, the royal family, from one of the 7 elder demon emperors, right? Which we do get a lesson on in just a little bit, but I get why Sasha does what she does. We also get a quick little childhood flashback to this time where Sasha was in a room of triangle mirrors. Very weird, but hey, it's a demon world. I'm not really going to question a whole lot of things. But Sasha's in this this triangle room, and the only person to come visit her is Misha, who comes in and looks her in the eyes and then holds her hand, just to say hey, it's okay, I'm here, I got you, right? This basically just cements what we heard Sasha say earlier, that Misha is the only one who could look into her eyes and not be afraid. So it makes a whole lot of sense, and Sasha then apologizes to Misha, saying I'm only gonna say this once, I'm sorry. And Misha's response is I was never mad. It's cool, I get it. I'm not overjoyed about the fact that you treated us like garbage, but I understand, and you're my sister, so it's fine, right? They have a nice little sisterly bond moment, which is quite sad in hindsight. And I have a theory as to what is going on between the two of them, like in terms of like why Misha was never scared, and what's up with the quote-unquote living doll thing that Misha is. We'll get into it once we get into like the dungeon exam part of the episode. But with that said, let us now leave the opening scene and talk a little bit about some classroom stuff, because here is where we get some more fun lore tidbits. And y'all know me, I like the lore in this series. There's something about it that just clicks with me, especially VOLDI in particular. Like the idea of this dude who is who he says he is. Like the fact that this Demon King from 2,000 years ago is now seeing the fruits of his labor and is unimpressed, right? And is genuinely sort of confused about how things got to where they are. And just the whole him in the classroom stuff where he's like, this is what they're teaching you? This is lame. Like, he's just so unimpressed. Like, that kind of stuff. Basically, the reason you watch this show is VOLDI and the lore, right? Like, the reason that I'm at least watching it is because, A, I like VOLDI. I think he's a fun, OP character. Like, it's easy to write off overpowered characters, right? As like, oh, they're boring, nothing stops them, blah, blah, blah. But when they're this energetic and fun, like, not energetic, but when they're this suave, right? There's a reason why I said that he's like the Chuck Bass of anime, because he's very full of himself. His answer to everything is, I'm the Demon King, I'm Chuck Bass. I'm half tempted to change VOLDI's nickname to Chuck Bass, if I'm honest. I'm not going to do that because people would lose their shit. But VOLDI is so charismatic that the whole OP thing just kind of comes off as comedic, and it's just part of his character, like this fun type of character to be around, because you know everything's going to be okay and he's going to have a good time with it. Add in the fact that he has this deep-seated like connection to the history of the world in which we're inhabiting. It makes his scenes very fun, and the stuff like that is directly tied to like exploring why things have ended up the way that they are. Those are always the most interesting parts of the episode for me. That said, there is some sweet stuff too. As an example, we find out that Misha wants to give Sasha a birthday gift, and it's adorable. It's actually really sweet, like the idea that Misha's like, I want to get her something for her birthday, and VOLDI's like, all right, that's cute. Oh my god, that's actually adorable. Like VOLDI's like, wow, okay, that's cool. Right on, you should do that. But then once Sasha like joins them to sit down, VOLDI reveals that he actually told Sasha's old allies to take a hike when they tried to join his team, to which, like, Sasha, of course, replies, like, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that? And he's like, well, we only needed 3 of us. Like, it didn't seem like a big deal. And Sasha rightfully points out, like, no, genius, you need, like, 7 party members for specific exams and tests. I cannot believe you did that. And again, even though I just said VOLDI's the reason to watch this show, it's part of his character that he isn't aware of how things work in this modern sense of his world. So you can kind of forgive him a little bit on that front. But you can also, like, the one thing that I was a little bit surprised by is when somebody mentions the 7 elder demon emperors, and he's like, what is that? And they have to explain that, like, the emperors came from the Demon King himself by taking parts of his blood and separating them amongst the different emperors, and that he basically, I guess, created life from his own blood in the form of the 7 demon emperors. So again, our lad is only just ever so slightly OP. The fact that this man is creating emperors with his blood, kind of intense. But this is interesting, right? Because VOLDI goes like, oh, yeah, okay, that's what they called them? All right, that's interesting, I guess. And then when he asks, like, are they still alive? And they're like, oh, yeah, that's who runs the school. And VOLDI's like, wait, if they run the school, then why is everything so sloppy? Like, there's no way that the characters that I knew would be letting the school run like this. Like, something's not right. That's the first sign that something's not right. The second sign is when we are introduced to Ivis Necron, aka the ancestor of Sasha and Misha, who arrives being one of the 7 elder demon emperors who is there to give a lecture on fusion magic. And the instant that Ivis enters the classroom, VOLDI immediately addresses him as though he's like an old friend. And the whole classroom is shocked by this, right? So Ivis walks in, he goes, yo, Ivis, been a long time, how's it going? And the whole class is like, what the hell? Like, you can't just address him like that. Because, as Sasha points out, like, she's never even spoken to the guy, even though they're from the same family. Ivis is her direct ancestor, and she's only ever spoken to him once because the 7 elder demon emperors are essentially looked upon as like gods. Like, you don't address them like that. So to the rest of the class, it's like if it would be like if Superman walked in and you were like, yo, Soups, what's going on? Like, everyone would be like, whoa, show the man some goddamn respect. But, like, on a huger scale, like, this would be like, even better example, this would be like if you walked up and tried to give the queen props. And, like, the whole of the royal guard is like, what the hell are you doing? Like, that's essentially what it's like. Now, interestingly enough, Ivis says, like, have we met? And I'm thinking, like, oh, maybe Voldy isn't who he says he is, but then my man just strolls up and grabs Ivis' head. He's like, I'm gonna need you to stay still for a second. And then he does this spell. Now, I thought he was, like, reading Ivis' mind, but what he's actually doing, what he actually did, rather, was he took the two of them back in time. Like, he took them backwards through time to see what has changed in Ivis' timeline. Like, what has gone on to make him forget him. And we'll get back to this in just a little bit, but I have to point out that Ivis basically has that happen. Everybody is shocked, and he's like, huh, okay, well, that was interesting. I have to go give my lecture now. And Voldy's like, yeah, all right, cool, yeah, go ahead, give your lecture, please. And the rest of the class is like, wait, he's not gonna get in trouble for that? What the hell? And yeah, the man proceeds to give a lecture on fusion magic, which I'll admit, much like many other lectures that I have been to in my college years, I kind of started looking at my phone. I'm probably going to regret that, but I'm sure somebody in the comments will let me know what the hell fusion magic is. It sounds kind of self-explanatory, so hopefully I didn't miss too much. But hey, lectures. It's as a college dropout, it's kind of in my wheelhouse to sort of not pay attention to that very much. But for the sake of this video, that's not really the important thing. The important thing is that Voldy, like, basically took the two of them back in time, because that's where Voldy reveals after class is over, when he's talking to Ivis one-on-one. Ivis says, like, so it's really you? And he's like, yeah, technically, but you don't remember me. But yes, it's me. And so it's like, whoa, this is an interesting scene, because Ivis says, like, I know Anos Dilhevia, which is a name we heard last week, right? Anos Dilhevia. Voldy says, like, okay, so when we went back in time to see what was rewritten, I saw the name Anos Dilhevia, which means somebody is purposefully rewriting our history. Somebody is going back, it's not so much that somebody's going back, it's that somebody in the span of those 2,000 years took credit for what our boy Voldy built, the bastards. They took credit for it and then rewrote the 7 elder demons' memories. At the very least, they rewrote Ivis' memory. I don't know if that's the same across the board for all the demon emperors, but as far as we can tell, it's like that for Ivis, so I have to assume it's like that for all of them. So Voldy now has this sort of conundrum where it's like, okay, so nobody believes that I'm who I say I am, because I don't have, like, the knowledge of this previous demon king, this imaginary demon king, this Anos Dilhevia, right? So because I don't know that, I have to work my way through the ranks now. So now we have an explanation as to why people don't believe him, right? It's because he doesn't know the fictional history of Anos Dilhevia, he only knows his own history, which is partly the same history as Anos Dilhevia, like being the whole, like, demon king of tyranny and stuff like that. But there's obvious changes, and there's stuff about the school that he also doesn't know that people would assume that the Demon King would know. So, it makes a lot of sense. Plus the fact that openly Ivis said, I don't know who you are, in front of the classroom, probably didn't help much either. But yeah, now we kind of have an explanation, because one of the issues with the show that I have is the fact that this man is constantly showing off just how powerful he is. Yet people are still like, nah, I don't buy it. He's definitely not the Demon King. That's crazy talk. That's crazy town banana pants. No. It's like, no, he clearly is, though. Like, he clearly is. Look at what he can do. And the fact that he is so confident that he knows these people, that he's able to take Ivis and go back through time, even though it looks like they're standing still. So to everybody else, they were just standing still. But the fact that Ivis didn't just eradicate him in that moment should tell you that, yeah, he probably is the reincarnated Demon King. But, you know, people just ain't interested in hearing that right now. And I like that Ivis is, like, he's wary of Voldy. He does believe that VOLDI is who he says he is, or at least he believes that VOLDI believes. But he's a little bit cautious of him, right? Because he's like, how do I know that you weren't the one who screwed with my mind? How do I know that you didn't set this all up as part of your grand plan? How do I know that you're not some imposter to the throne, that maybe Anno Stilhevia is the proper Demon King and that VOLDI's the one in the wrong? But I mean, we obviously know that that's not the case. But as far as Ivas is concerned, like, that could be what's going on. So Ivas does recognize VOLDI's skill, recognizes there's something about VOLDI that is absolutely connected to the Demon King, but he's not really willing to give him that full support quite yet, you know what I mean? So I do like that a lot. And then that's sort of followed by the teacher saying, the one who's not Sasha. So after Ivas leaves, the teacher says, like, hey, one of your teammates dropped their insignia. Could you give it back to them? And VOLDI, of course, being VOLDI, is like, yeah, sure. Who was it? And the teacher responds with, as I said, the one who's not Sasha. And what a mean teacher. Like, what a mean person. Like, just, like, that's not how you talk to your students. But at the same time, like, as we've established, like, there's a clear, like, divide. Not divide, but there's a clear, like, disdain for living dolls or whatever it is that Misha is supposed to be. So the teacher doesn't really, I guess, respect Misha all that much, nor does she seem to respect VOLDI, as he is the misfit of the class. But VOLDI puts her in her place. He's like, yeah, it's kind of a rude thing to say, though, but yeah, I'll take it back to her. And she's like, oh, right, yeah. So it's like, yeah, put that evil-ass teacher in her place. That's such a cruel-ass thing to say. And then we have the third big scene of the episode. This is where a lot of stuff happens. This is the dungeon exam. Sorry, everything's been demon this whole video. I was just anticipating. As soon as I hear D at the beginning of the word, I just assume the next few letters out of my mouth are going to spell out demon. But actually, it's the dungeon exam. And Misha's, like, it's interesting too, right? Before we get to the dungeon exam, we have a little bit of, like, preamble that gets there, right? And it starts with Misha looking at her letter that she was given from her guardian. And she hasn't read it yet. And VOLDI even says, like, you're not gonna open the letter? Like, it's for you. And she's like, nah, it's my good luck charm. So it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, she notes that, like, this letter she won't open because this is her good luck charm. I guess because it led her to meeting VOLDI, which is adorable the more I think about it. Like, the fact that letter, even though it wasn't open, is what led her to meet VOLDI, so it's her good luck charm. So that's actually super cute. Then we also see Sasha get pissed with her old teammates for bad-mouthing her current team, because they shoot, like, Sasha a look, and that pisses her off, and she, like, uses the eyes to, like, break apart the ground and stuff. So she very clearly gives a shit and cares about Misha and VOLDI. She's just not willing to admit it quite yet. This does, however, lead us nicely into the dungeon exam, where we are told that whoever collects the most items within the dungeon will pass the exam, right? Like, they'll pass the exam. But if you are able to grab the scepter at the lowest level of the dungeon, you get a perfect score. Now, of course, VOLDI is like, okay, so all we need to do is grab the scepter. And Sasha's like, that's a bad idea because you can't grab the scepter. Like, it's at the lowest level of the dungeon. Even the teachers haven't been there. And who the hell knows what's down there? And if we don't go start looking around for items now, we're going to fall behind. So no, we're not grabbing the scepter. Besides, the scepter is supposed to have belonged to the Demon King himself. And VOLDI's like, yeah, I know. because I'm Chuck Bass. Because I'm the Demon King. Right, so of course VOLDI's like, no, we're grabbing the scepter. And so as they're walking towards there, right, like they decide to saunter their way down, and VOLDI's like, don't worry, I know how to get to the lowest level of the dungeon, it's fine. And I know this because this is my castle. So as they're walking through, VOLDI notes to Misha from way back earlier in the episode, he says, like, hey, so on the lowest level where the scepter is, there's, like, another compartment where I've hidden a bunch of my favorite items from back, before I reincarnated 2,000 years ago because, he's the Demon King. So he says, like, there's a room full of items in there. You should go in there and pick an item out for Sasha, like, whatever you think would suit her best. And that is so friggin' sweet, because to me it shows that he is like, that Voldy is trying to take an interest in Misha's interests, like what Misha wants, Voldy wants to help her out with, because I think, like, Misha clearly likes Voldy. I don't know if Voldy likes Misha, or if he sees something in Misha, or he just, like, is viewing her as a friend right now, I don't know. But I like that he's taking an interest in her life and what she wants, and I think that's really sweet. She also points out that her birthday is the same day as well. Her 15th, right? So it's like, oh, okay, so they're both turning 15, and that, you know, Misha wants to get Sasha a present for that, and Voldy is just sort of like, what about you? And Misha's like, I don't really want anything. This will come into play again later, because I'm pretty sure I know what's gonna go on with that, but that said, there's really a hilarious scene that I have to address, and it's when they find the secret passageway, and Voldy is like, oh, okay, so this is it. And everyone's like, that's a dead end. Like, especially Sasha. Sasha's like, that's just a dead end. Like, that, like, you lied. And Misha's like, I don't know about that, but there is, like, a magic barrier over it. And Sasha's like, oh, yeah, I can see that with my demon eyes. But I don't see, like, a way around it. And that's when Voldy's like, that's because you don't always use magic, damn it. Voldy is basically like, if you fused Asta with Saitama, where they're just overpowered, but they don't have to use magic to be badass. Like, this man just, like, basically, no joke, with his hands in his pockets, walks through the dead end, like, just walks through it and reveals on the other side of, like, the wall that he just crumbled to dust, that there is actually a secret passageway. And what I love is this scene, right, where Misha just claps and is like, ooh, sturdy. And it's like, oh my god, that's so friggin', I love these two. Like, I really like the dynamic between Misha and Voldy. I just think it's friggin' adorable, and it's part of the reason why I was like, thanks, I hate it when Sasha kisses Voldy, because it's like, no, gross, that's not the ship that I asked for, damn it. They managed to get down to the final floor, like the last floor where the scepter is, pretty easily. The only thing of note on the way is that Voldy says, like, that there's a room where there's, like, not an artificial sun and moon, but it, like, has the light from the sun. It's complicated. There's this room that's, like, illuminated by the sun in, like, the lowest level, one of the lowest levels of the castle. And they're like, how is that happening? And Voldy explains it. I'm like, that wasn't an explanation. I still have no idea. Well, it probably was, but I'm just too stupid to know what you just said. But the only thing of note there is that Voldy says that, like, something's different about the room that he can't quite pinpoint, like something is just off. So that's worth noting, because that's a little bit weird. But basically, yeah, we get to the scene where they get down to the scepter. And, of course, Sasha right away is like, oh my god, can I look at it? Can I grab it? Can I hold it? And of course, Voldy's like, yeah, sure, what the hell ever, knock yourself out. Misha, come with me, please. And so they walk into the side room, and that's where they see all the different items. And Misha decides to give Sasha the Phoenix robe as her birthday gift. And this basically imbues the wearer with eternal flames, right? It looks pretty dope on Sasha, I can't lie. She looks like especially with the scepter later on, she looks like a queen. An evil queen, by the way, but a queen nonetheless. But what's interesting here is that when Misha is looking for an item for Sasha, her eyes are caught by this ring, this, like, ice ring. I don't remember what they call it. But Voldy's like, do you want it? And Misha's like, no, I couldn't take it. I don't really want anything. I think Voldy's gonna end up giving her that ring, and if he does, to me, this ship has sailed. Like, because I know it's not an engagement ring, and I know we're only on episode 3, but I'm gonna consider that, like, a promise ring, because, like, goddamn, like, the fact that it's a ring, come on, you know what a ring symbolizes. I don't even gotta tell you. I don't gotta do some kind of symbolism type of thing. You know what a ring symbolizes, goddamn it. So that's great by me. So hopefully Voldy does give Misha the ring. But that said, it is revealed that Sasha has broken bad, and this is like the whole episode. I'm enjoying myself. I'm having a good time. And when Sasha breaks bad, first of all, I was like, whoa, what? Like, it caught me off guard. But they don't really, like, make a big deal out of it, like, in terms of, like, the direction or the music or the voice acting. It's just sort of like, I did this. Look what I did. And I'm like, oh, okay, Sasha, damn. All right. I don't believe you. And, like, neither does Voldy. Voldy's like, yeah, I don't buy this. And she's like, no, for realsies, I'm bad, I'm evil. Hell yeah, evil. And evil. And Voldi's like, no. And the audience is probably thinking the same, like, no thing, right? They're like, no, no, I don't buy that. Because you clearly care. Like, that was too good of an act to not be real. And what I love is that they actually do give you a hint that what is happening is not for real. At the very least, it's not what Sasha actually feels. Because as noted in last week's episode, and as we see in this week's episode, when Misha gives her the robe, when her emotions are sort of flying out of whack, you see it on Sasha's like pupils, right? You see like the like demon insignia thing like flash up on her eyes. So her eyes actually flare up when she's feeling sort of emotional, right? So when she's like like giving her big speech about how she never cared about Misha and how like all of this was a means to an end, and now that she's got the scepter, she's gonna run back and she's gonna win, she's gonna go back to her old team and all those nonsense. And like right away, Voldi's like, no, because your eyes are your dead giveaway. Like you would play a shitty hand of poker because like your eyes are your giveaway, and they didn't flare up when you said any of that. So you are not like you're a great actress, but you're not exactly fooling me here. Now, mind you, she does manage to get away from them. And I think they say that they still have like 7 hours to get back topside before they fail the exam. And what's interesting here is that Voldi says like, okay, Misha, I'm gonna need an explanation on what the hell is going on. She stabbed you, I healed you, and I put the illusion to make it look like you were still stabbed. But like now that she's running for the hills, I'm gonna need you to explain what the hell's up with you two. And Misha responds by saying, technically, Misha Necron never existed within this world to begin with. Now, if I had to guess what that means, and keep in mind, anime only, I don't really know, but if I had to guess what this means, the fact that they said that she's not really a living doll, technically, and the fact that Misha says that technically Misha Necron never existed in this world to begin with, I have to assume that what happened was when Sasha was born, the other twin didn't make it, and that was Misha, but then they made a doll version of Misha, or maybe Misha, or rather that Misha was like an imaginary friend that Sasha sort of brought into existence because she needed somebody else to be there for her, because obviously her family is scared of her powers and stuff, right? So she made up this imaginary sister for herself, and then eventually put that like imaginary sister to the test by making her into a living doll. That's my theory. It's kind of dark, but that's what I think might happen. I don't really have concrete proof on that. Just what I thought, based off like this childhood flashback from the beginning of the episode, plus the way that Sasha's acting, plus the way Misha's acting. That's just kind of my theory. An anime theory. I hate that I just made that kind of reference. But with that said, everybody, I am going to wrap up my thoughts here. Thank you all so much for watching, and hey, if you enjoyed today's video, then don't forget to boop that up snoot and share if you care. And of course, as always, I want to give a big thank you to the good folks in the D Squadron. Look at these beautiful names. Look at all these beautiful people who definitely ship Misha and Voldi just as much as I do. At least I sure hope they do. And if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then be sure to check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page. And for less than a cup of coffee a month, you can help keep this channel afloat, and I would sincerely appreciate it. But with all of that said, everybody, I am going to go edit this bad boy down, and until next time, you stay classy, AnyTube, and wash your dang hands.